The clock on the mantel read 2:47 a.m. when I finally accepted that she wasn't coming home. I'd been sitting in the same armchair for 6 hours, my phone clutched in my hand like a lifeline, staring at the door and willing it to open. The pasta I'd made for our anniversary dinner had long since congealed in the pot, a sad reminder of how this evening was supposed to go. 17 years of marriage, and she'd never done anything like this before. I checked my phone again. 12 missed calls. 23 text messages, each one progressively more desperate than the last. All delivered. All read. Not a single response. Hey, running late? Dinner's ready. Is everything okay? Call me when you get this. I'm getting worried. Please just let me know you're safe. The blue check marks mocked me with their silence. My mind raced through every possibility. An accident, but surely the hospital would have called. Work emergency, but her assistant had confirmed she left the office at 5:30 p.m., right on schedule. I'd even called her best friend Sarah, who seemed genuinely confused and promised to reach out to her. Nothing. I replayed our last conversation that morning, searching for clues I might have missed. She'd been distracted, yes, but not angry. We'd discussed plans for the weekend, talked about finally booking that trip to the coast we'd been postponing. She'd kissed me goodbye at the door, the same way she had for nearly 2 decades. Everything had seemed normal. But clearly, something wasn't normal. Around 3:15 a.m., I did something I'd never done before. I logged into our cellular account and checked the location services on her phone. My hands trembled as I navigated through the menus, guilt and desperation warring in my chest. We'd always respected each other's privacy. This felt like crossing a line. But she'd crossed one first by disappearing without a word. The little blue dot appeared on the map, stationary and glowing. The Grand Meridian Hotel, downtown. My breath caught in my throat. A hotel. She was at a hotel, 15 minutes from our house, while I sat here losing my mind. The implications hit me like a freight train. The ignored calls. The deliberate silence. The hotel. I thought about driving there immediately, confronting her, demanding answers. But something stopped me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was the sick feeling in my stomach that told me whatever was happening, charging in blind would only make it worse. I barely slept. When I did drift off around 5 a.m., I dreamed of accusatory strangers and locked doors I couldn't open. My phone buzzed at 8:23 a.m., jolting me awake. Her name flashed on the screen. Finally. My heart hammered as I opened the message. Don't worry about me. Spend the day thinking about us. I stared at those words until they blurred. No apology. No explanation. Just a cryptic instruction delivered with infuriating calm. The casual cruelty of it made my hands shake. What did that even mean? Think about us? I'd spent the entire night thinking about nothing else. I'd tortured myself with questions, with scenarios, with fears I didn't even want to name. I typed and deleted a dozen responses. Anger, confusion, hurt, none of them seemed adequate. Finally, I wrote nothing. If she wanted me to think, I'd think. I made coffee with mechanical precision, my mind churning. Something was very wrong. This wasn't like her, the woman I'd built a life with, who cried during commercials and left me encouraging notes in my lunch bag. People don't just transform overnight. Or do they? Around 10 a.m., I received an email notification. Standard billing alert from our credit card. Normally, I'd ignore it until the statement came, but given the circumstances, I opened it. My blood ran cold as I read the charge description. Grand Meridian Hotel, room service and accommodations, $847.52. But it wasn't the amount that made my stomach drop. It was the name on the reservation. Mine. I read the email 3 times, each word sinking deeper into my consciousness like stones in water. The reservation was in my name. My credit card. My email address listed as the primary contact. But I hadn't set foot in that hotel. My wife had, though. And she'd made absolutely certain I'd take the fall for it. The shock gave way to something colder, more calculated. I pulled up our cellular account again, this time taking screenshots of her location data from the previous night. Time-stamped. Coordinates. Irrefutable proof she'd checked into that hotel at 7:43 p.m. and hadn't left. Then I did what I should have done hours ago. I started looking for the why. Our bank accounts told an interesting story. Over the past 3 months, she'd been making small withdrawals. Nothing alarming individually. 40 here, 60 there, sometimes 100. The kind of amounts that wouldn't trigger suspicion. But together, they totaled nearly $3,000. All in cash. All untraceable. I checked our credit card statements next. Lunch charges at restaurants I'd never heard of, always on weekdays, always for 2 people based on the amounts. Coffee shops in parts of town she had no business being in. A purchase from a boutique hotel gift shop 2 weeks ago. The evidence was building, but I forced myself to stay methodical. Emotion could come later. Right now, I needed facts. I opened her laptop, password still the same after all these years, our wedding date. Her email was logged in, and I felt only a distant echo of guilt as I began searching. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. Draft emails, never sent, all addressed to her divorce attorney. James Whittaker, a name I recognized from the news, shark in a suit, specialized in high-asset divorces. The drafts outlined a strategy. Paint me as emotionally distant. Claim I'd been having an affair, staying at hotels, racking up charges. Document my erratic behavior and abandonment. My disappearance last night wasn't her crime, it was supposed to be mine. The hotel room booked in my name. The paper trail showing my charges. Her text this morning that I should think about us, which could be twisted in court to show I'd been contemplating leaving. And her location at home all night, according to what she'd claim, worried sick while her husband vanished to a hotel. It was elegant, really. Diabolical, but elegant. She'd been planning to flip the script entirely. Make herself the victim of my infidelity, my abandonment, my hotel stays. That's what the cash withdrawals were for, to have clean money while making our joint accounts look like I was draining them for my secret life. I sat back, my mind reeling. How long had she been planning this? And more importantly, why? I found the answer in a folder labeled Home Renovation Ideas, because of course she'd hide it somewhere I'd never look. Messages from a dating app, downloaded 6 months ago. Conversations with someone named Derek, all flotation and promise. Plans to start fresh once she freed herself from dead weight. Dead weight. 17 years, and I was dead weight. But what struck me most wasn't the affair, it was the calculation. The screenshots she'd taken of our arguments, even minor ones, with captions added later to make them seem worse. Photos of me working late at my desk, captioned ignoring family again. A recording of a conversation we'd had about feeling distant, where she deliberately provoked me into admitting I sometimes felt lonely in our marriage. She'd been building a case against me for months. The hotel last night was supposed to be the final piece. She'd stay there, making it look like she was the one worried and waiting while I was out doing God knows what. Then she'd discover the charges in my name, act shocked and betrayed, and use it as the catalyst to file for divorce with her as the wounded party. In our state, fault still mattered. The wronged spouse often came out ahead in asset division. And with my salary being nearly double hers, plus the house we owned outright, the retirement accounts, the investment portfolio, she'd position herself to take the lion's share while painting me as the villain. My phone buzzed. Another message from her. I think we need some space. I'll be staying elsewhere for a few days. We can talk when you're ready to be honest with me. The audacity was breathtaking. She was already starting the narrative. Space. Honesty. Making it sound like I was the one who'd done something wrong. I took a screenshot of that too. Then I started making calls. First to James Whittaker's office, posing as a potential client. His secretary helpfully confirmed they'd had a consultation with someone last week but couldn't share details. That was enough. Next, I called the Grand Meridian Hotel. Yes, I'd like to clarify a charge on my credit card, I said smoothly. Room reservation last night under my name. I need the security footage from the check-in, as there may have been credit card fraud involved. The manager was apologetic and helpful. They'd need a formal request, but yes, they maintained security recordings. They'd show exactly who checked in under my name. Perfect. I spent the rest of that day becoming someone I'd never been before, strategic, calculating, 2 steps ahead. If my wife wanted to play chess with our marriage, I'd show her I knew how to play too. First, I secured everything. I opened a separate bank account and transferred exactly half of our liquid assets, not a penny more, perfectly legal and defensible. I made copies of every financial document, every deed, every investment statement. I backed up her laptop completely, preserving all those draft emails and dating app messages in multiple locations, including a cloud service she didn't know I had. Then I did something that felt deliciously appropriate. I called the Grand Meridian Hotel back and spoke to the billing department. Hi, I need to dispute a charge from last night. Someone used my credit card without authorization to book a room under my name. I'd like to file a formal complaint and involve the authorities if necessary. The manager, a woman named Patricia, was immediately concerned. Sir, I completely understand. Let me pull up the reservation. Could you describe what happened? My credit card was used to book a room that I never stayed in. I was home all night. I can provide evidence of that. I believe my card information was stolen. There was typing on the other end. I see the reservation here. Checked in at 7:43 p.m. Checkout this morning at 8:15 a.m. The person who checked in would have needed to provide ID matching the reservation name. That's impossible, I said calmly. I never provided any ID because I was never there. Could you tell me what ID was presented? More typing. A pause. Sir, this is unusual. The ID presented was a driver's license in your name, but looking at the security footage timestamp, would you be able to come in and verify something for us? I smiled. Absolutely. I'll be there this afternoon. Before heading to the hotel, I made one more crucial call, to Sarah, my wife's best friend. I need you to be honest with me, I said. How long have you known? There was a long silence. Then, quietly, about Derek? 3 months. She swore me to secrecy. Said she was unhappy, that you'd grown apart. I told her she should talk to you, go to counseling, but she had other plans, I finished. Did she tell you about the hotel setup? What hotel setup? Sarah sounded genuinely confused. I explained everything, the reservation in my name, the evidence she'd been manufacturing, the divorce strategy. I could hear Sarah's shock turning to anger. That's insane. That's not what she told me at all. She made it sound like she was the victim, like you were the one who'd checked out of the marriage. Sarah paused. She's been lying to everyone, hasn't she? Yes. And I need you to do something for me. What I asked Sarah to do was simple but effective. I needed her to text my wife, casual and concerned, asking if everything was okay after her night alone to think things through. Not accusing, just supportive. Whatever my wife replied would either confirm she was sticking to her story or show her hand further. At the Grand Meridian, Patricia the manager met me personally. She'd pulled everything, security footage, registration records, credit card receipts. Mr. Harrison, she said, using my last name, I need to show you something. We sat in her office, and she pulled up the security footage on her computer. There, in crystal clarity, was my wife walking into the hotel at 7:42 p.m. She approached the desk with confidence, handed over a driver's license, and here Patricia paused the video and zoomed in. That clearly showed my photo but was somehow in her possession. How did she? I started. Patricia switched to another angle. Keep watching. The footage showed my wife at the check-in counter, pulling out a credit card, signing the receipt. The desk clerk never questioned anything because the ID matched the reservation, and the credit card was authorized. She had a fake ID made with your information, Patricia said grimly. This is identity fraud, Mr. Harrison. The question is, do you want to press charges? I sat back, mind racing. Pressing charges would be nuclear, criminal proceedings, public records, the works. It would destroy her, but it would also make our inevitable divorce a circus. I need to think about that, I said. But I do need something from you. I need all of this documented officially. Written statement from the hotel, copies of the footage, the fraudulent ID scan, everything. Patricia nodded. You'll have it by tomorrow. And Mr. Harrison? I'm sorry this happened. We see a lot at this hotel, but this is particularly calculated. As I left the hotel, my phone rang. Sarah. You need to hear this, she said, and played me a voice message my wife had just sent her. My wife's voice, tinged with fake distress. He finally showed his true colors. Sarah. Stayed at a hotel last night. Won't even talk to me. I found the charges. I think he's having an affair. I can't believe I was so blind. James says I have grounds for a fault divorce, that I'll be protected. The lies flowed so smoothly it was almost impressive. There's more, Sarah said when the message ended. She asked me to be a witness, to testify that you'd been distant and suspicious for months. She's calling everyone we know, building her narrative. Let her, I said. The pieces were falling into place. I need you to do one more thing. Can you meet her for coffee tomorrow? Act supportive, sympathetic, and record everything she says. You want me to wear a wire like in the movies? Sarah actually laughed. She's my friend, but what she's doing to you, yeah, I'll do it. That evening, I received another text from my wife. I've decided to stay at my mother's for a while. This separation might be good for us. Or maybe it'll help us realize we want different things. The narrative continued. Separation, her idea, painting herself as the thoughtful one taking space. I replied simply, whatever you think is best. Let her think I was broken, confused, guilty. Meanwhile, I was 3 moves ahead, and she had no idea the board had already shifted beneath her feet. The next morning, Sarah sat across from my wife at their favorite coffee shop, phone recording in her purse, and played the role perfectly. I monitored from my car parked a block away. Not surveillance exactly, just insurance. Sarah had texted me updates throughout. She's describing you as emotionally abusive. Says you've been gaslighting her for years. Then, now she's showing me evidence, those screenshots we talked about. She's actually crying. Academy Award stuff. And finally, she just admitted Derek is supporting her through this. Asked me to lie about when their relationship started. That last message made me grip the steering wheel harder. Not just framing me, actively recruiting witnesses to commit perjury. When Sarah emerged an hour later, she looked shaken. We met at a diner across town. It's worse than you thought, she said, sliding her phone across the table. Listen to this part. My wife's voice, clear on the recording. The hotel thing was perfect. He'll never be able to prove he wasn't there. It's his card, his name, and who's going to believe he didn't know? James says with the adultery angle, I'll get the house, at least 60% of his retirement, and probably alimony. Derek and I can finally be together without me losing everything I've built. There it was. Confession. Motive. Premeditation. There's more, Sarah continued. She's planning to file a restraining order next week. Claims she's afraid of you, that you've been erratic and threatening. James apparently does this in every case, gets the order, makes the husband look dangerous, then files for emergency asset protection. I felt sick. This wasn't just divorce strategy, this was systematic character assassination with legal weaponry. What are you going to do? Sarah asked. I'd been thinking about that all night. The evidence I had was damning. The fake ID, the dating app messages, the draft emails to her attorney, Sarah's recording. I could destroy her in court, maybe even criminally. But there was a part of me that still remembered the woman I'd married, before whatever this was. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Harrison? This is Detective Rachel Chen from the Fraud Division. The Grand Meridian Hotel filed a report about identity theft involving your credit card. I need to ask you some questions. Perfect timing. I met Detective Chen at the station that afternoon. She was sharp, no nonsense, and clearly had seen this kind of thing before. Identity theft in domestic situations is tricky, she explained. Technically, as your spouse, she had legal access to your credit cards. But the fake ID crosses a line. That's forgery, identity fraud. If we pursue this, it becomes criminal. What if I don't press charges? I asked. Then it's a civil matter for your divorce court. She leaned back. But Mr. Harrison, I pulled your wife's record. This isn't her first rodeo. Different name, different state. But 12 years ago there was a similar situation. Divorce case where she accused her ex-husband of financial abuse while she'd been siphoning money. It got messy. Eventually settled, records sealed. My blood ran cold. She was married before. You didn't know? Detective Chen looked genuinely surprised. Yeah. Marriage lasted 3 years, ended badly. Her ex filed a complaint that was later withdrawn, probably as part of the settlement. But the pattern is there. I'd been married to a stranger. Or worse, I'd been married to someone who'd done this before, who'd refined her technique, who saw spouses as marks. I need time, I said. You've got 48 hours before I have to move forward with the hotel's complaint regardless of your cooperation, Chen said. Choose wisely. I drove home in a daze. Everything I thought I knew had been a lie. Our entire marriage, had any of it been real? Or was I just a better mark than the last one, lasted longer, accumulated more assets worth taking? At home, I found an envelope on the doorstep. Inside was a formal notice. She'd filed for legal separation, citing irreconcilable differences and marital misconduct. Attached was a temporary restraining order hearing notice for next week. She was moving faster than I expected. I called my own attorney, Michael Rodriguez, recommended by a colleague who'd been through a nightmare divorce. Unlike James Whittaker, Michael's reputation was built on honest advocacy, not scorched earth. You've got a strong case, Michael said after reviewing everything I'd compiled. The fake ID alone torpedoes her credibility. The dating app, the recordings, the pattern from her previous marriage. She's not just losing, she's potentially facing criminal charges. But I heard it in his voice. But you need to decide what kind of man you want to be when this is over. You can destroy her, and you'd be justified. Or you can protect yourself, get what's fair, and walk away. That night, I made my decision. I compiled everything into a single, devastating package. Security footage, financial records, Sarah's recording, Detective Chen's information about the prior marriage, the dating app messages, all of it. Then I did something my wife would never expect. I sent it to her attorney. Not to her, to James Whittaker directly, with a simple cover letter. Your client has committed multiple acts of fraud and perjury in preparation for this divorce. I'm prepared to pursue criminal charges and civil damages that will bankrupt her and destroy your reputation by association. Or, we can settle this quietly, equitably, and today. You have 24 hours to advise your client. James Whittaker called at 8:47 a.m. the next morning. His voice had lost all its courtroom smoothness. Mr. Harrison, I need to speak with you about a settlement proposal. I'm listening. My client was not fully transparent with me about certain aspects of this case. After reviewing the materials you sent, I've advised her that continuing on the current path would be catastrophic for everyone involved. Catastrophic for her, you mean? A pause. Yes. She's prepared to settle. 50-50 split of all assets, no alimony, no restraining orders, clean break. In exchange, you agree not to pursue criminal charges and to keep the evidence confidential. I let the silence stretch. Let him squirm. Not good enough, I said finally. Here's my counter, 60-40 split in my favor. Call it compensation for fraud and emotional distress. She drops every allegation she's made to friends and family, issues a written apology admitting she fabricated the hotel incident. She pays my legal fees. And she signs an affidavit admitting to the fake ID and identity theft, which I'll hold. If she ever tries to revive these lies or comes after me again, that affidavit goes to the police. That's aggressive, Mr. Harrison. Compared to what she tried to do to me, it's mercy. I kept my voice level. And James? You're fired as her attorney. You didn't do proper due diligence, and you were about to help her commit fraud on the court. She gets new counsel, someone ethical, or the deal's off. Another long pause. I'll relay your terms. 3 hours later, my phone rang again. A different voice, a woman, older, professional. Mr. Harrison, this is Catherine Brennan. I've been retained to represent your wife in settlement negotiations. I've reviewed the situation, and I believe your terms are reasonable given the circumstances. My client is prepared to accept them with one modification. The written apology remains private, not distributed to your social circle. Agreed, I said. But she tells Sarah the truth in person. Sarah deserves that. Done. We met for the settlement signing 4 days later in Catherine Brennan's office. My wife looked smaller somehow, diminished. The confident woman who'd planned my destruction was gone, replaced by someone who couldn't meet my eyes. Catherine walked us through the documents. Asset division, debt allocation, the affidavit admitting to the fake ID. Each signature felt like closing a chapter. When we finished, my wife finally looked at me. Why? She asked quietly. Why not destroy me completely? You could have. I considered my answer carefully. Because becoming someone who destroys people, even people who deserve it, would mean you'd succeeded in changing who I am. And I won't give you that. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even closure really. It was just done. Sarah met with her the next day. I didn't ask for details, but Sarah texted afterward. She admitted everything. Cried. Said she'd convinced herself you didn't love her anymore, that it justified everything. I told her that's the saddest bullshit I've ever heard. We're not friends anymore. The divorce was finalized 8 weeks later. Quickest dissolution Catherine Brennan said she'd ever processed. I kept the house. Split the retirement accounts 60-40 as agreed. Took my half of the savings plus the agreed-upon compensation. She moved in with Derek 2 weeks after the papers were signed. That relationship lasted 3 months before imploding spectacularly, according to mutual acquaintances. Detective Chen called to confirm the hotel dropped their complaint once restitution was made. You're a more forgiving man than most, she said. That affidavit you're holding, keep it somewhere safe. Already in a safety deposit box, I assured her. 6 months after that terrible night, I sat in the same armchair where I'd waited for her to come home. But this time, I wasn't waiting for anyone. The house was mine, peaceful, reorganized. I'd started therapy to process the betrayal, joined a gym, reconnected with friends I'd let slip during the marriage. The hardest part wasn't the anger or the hurt, it was accepting that I might never understand why. Why she'd chosen deception over conversation. Why burning everything down seemed better than just leaving honestly. The woman I thought I knew wouldn't have done any of this. Which meant I'd never really known her at all. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Drinks tonight? Found a new place with excellent whiskey and terrible decisions. I smiled and typed back, just the whiskey, please. I've had enough terrible decisions to last a lifetime. As I got ready to meet her, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. The man looking back was older than the one from a year ago, maybe wiser, definitely more cautious. But he was intact. Still himself, despite someone's best efforts to tear him down. The morning message that had explained everything was deleted now, along with her number, her photos, every digital trace. But I'd learned something valuable from that whole nightmare. When someone shows you who they really are, when they drop the mask and reveal the calculating stranger beneath, believe them the first time. And more importantly, don't let their choices define your character. I could have destroyed her, ruined her life as thoroughly as she tried to ruin mine. The old me might have thought that made me weak, letting her off easy. But the new me understood, walking away with my integrity intact, with the life I wanted to build, with peace instead of vengeance, that wasn't weakness. That was winning. I locked the door behind me and headed out into the evening. Somewhere out there, my ex-wife was living with the consequences of her choices. And somewhere out here, I was free to make better ones. The waiting was over. The questions were answered. And the rest of my life was mine to write.